Hello bookish people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan. In today's video we are going over my July wrap up. These are all 13 books I read in the month of July. 13 I'm pretty happy with. I mean, I always wish it could be more, but 13 I think that is a number we are happy with. So July I felt like was a pretty okay reading month. I mean, nothing really is like, oh my god, stands out to me. The first books we are going to talk about are the 5 books that I pulled from the TBR jar. So if you don't know, every month I pull 5 books out of my TBR jar. I don't have a TBR prompt jar. I just wrote down basically every unread book, put it in my TBR jar, and every month I select 5 of them. If I don't read them by the end of the month, then they get unhauled. These are the 5 books that I picked this month, and let's see, which ones did I read and which ones are we unhauling? June was the first month that I did this, and out of the 5 books I picked, I ended up just on my own DNFing one of them, unhauled it, completed one of them, and then the other 3 did not even attempt to read. This month though, I was much better. Okay, we're going to talk about these kind of in pairs. So the first pair we're going to talk about are these ones. We have The Midnight Library by Matt Haig and The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. These both have something in common with each other, and that is the fact that these are both very popular books. I read them originally and DNF'd both of them. So that's why they were in the TBR jar, because I had DNF'd them a couple months ago. I decided, since they were similar in the sense that they're both popular books I DNF'd, I ended up vlogging this experience and I made a video, popular books that I DNF'd. It is coming out later this week. These 2 are in it, so I'm not going to go too detailed into my thoughts, but overall, The Midnight Library, I really enjoyed this one. I ended up rating it 4 stars. The reason I originally DNF'd this book is because there's a point in this book where there is the Book of Regrets, and the character is going through all her regrets. I was not in the best mental headspace when I was reading it originally, and then I thought about my regrets. I was triggered and I put the book down, but I got past that part and I actually ended up really enjoying it. The next book is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This one I originally listened to the audiobook, and I found the narrator's voice, specifically the narrator narrating the kid's voice, to be super annoying, very cartoonish, and I just could not take this book seriously. I decided to do a physical read of it in July, and I ended up really loving it, and I understand the hype of this book now, and I rated this one 4 stars as well. The next pair we're talking about is It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us, both by Colleen Hoover. It was kind of fate that I pulled both of these out of the TBR jar at once, like, because they are a duology, and I overall enjoyed these books. I think I originally rated them 4 stars each. Going back, I would probably rate this like a 3 star. I need to stop rating things immediately after reading them, because once I'm a couple of days removed, I feel like the true rating comes into my brain. Now that I'm looking back on it, there is a lot of problematic things with it, so I'd probably rate this about a 3 star, and this one I will continue with my 4 star rating. That's fine. I don't really mind that. I mean, honestly, I just don't care about this book. Like, this book, I read it in one day. I don't know what happened in this book. It's all like mushy in my brain now. I have a very spoiler-filled thoughts for both of these books, which I have vlogged, so this I'm going to keep spoiler-free. I didn't realize what I knew about this book was the plot twist of the book, so I think I went into this book with a much different perspective than other people who went into this book completely blind and didn't know what was coming. And because I knew it was coming, it definitely affected my reading experience, and I was able to view things through a different lens. Obviously, this book has a clear message it is trying to get across, but I don't think there were strong enough consequences for one of the characters' actions in here, and I just found it problematic. I just didn't love the lack of consequences for this specific character's actions in here. I'm trying to keep it so spoiler free. I just didn't like that. It's just no, and I talked about it in my vlog. And for It Starts With Us, overall I enjoyed this book. I think it was definitely kind of a breath of fresh air after reading It Ends With Us, especially reading these back to back in the same day. I was really happy that I read this because it ended on a more light, positive note. Overall, it was fine. I mean, if you didn't read it, I don't think you'd be sad. If you did read it, like, okay. Like, it's just okay. Like, there's nothing, oh my god, run to this book and read it right now. I really don't have much thoughts and opinions on this specific book. And the last book that I pulled from the TBR jar is Killer Content by Olivia Black. This is a cozy mystery, and as you can see, I did start it. I got to chapter 3, and then I never picked it back up. But this one, I feel comfortable unhauling. Like, oh my god, it hurts me to unhaul this book because I do want to give it a chance. I don't know. I remember reading the first 2 chapters though and kind of rolling my eyes. I didn't really love the writing in this book. I didn't love the way the character said things. Like, some things are just like were a little cringe. I hate unhauling things without reading them, but that is the whole point of my rules. Obviously, I did not care enough about this book to really keep it. So we're going to stick to the rules and we're going to unhaul it. The next group of books we're going to talk about are the books that I read for Summerween. I also have kind of detailed thoughts on these books, so I won't go too overboard. The first one is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I absolutely loved Riley Sager's new release. This was amazing. I ended up rating it 4.5. Did I rate it 5 stars or 4.5 stars? I think I rated this 4.5 stars because I think like one of the twists at the end, I was just kind of like rolling my eyes at. I was just like, oh my god, like this is unrealistic and too much. But overall, I really enjoyed it and I really enjoyed the twist. I loved the house, I loved the setting, I loved all the characters, and I just thought this was a really, really fun time and I highly recommend it. I feel like if you are a Home Before Dark girl, you'll also like this because it has that same vibe with like the haunted house, gothic house, like I don't know, the house setting, a little good cozy haunted house, messed up house. I love it. I love it. I don't love an apartment-based thriller, but give me a spooky house-based thriller and I love it. The next book I read for Summerween is The Club by Ellery Lloyd. In this book, I absolutely did not enjoy at all and I rated it 2 stars. This book was just, it was nothing special. It has literally been sitting here just so I could film this thing because this is definitely going in an unhaul pile. There was nothing special about this. It was 2 stars. It was boring. There was way too many character perspectives. I got confused. I didn't know what was going on and I thought that maybe like, okay, maybe it's because I'm listening to it on audio. No, I read Goodreads reviews. Even people who are physically reading this, like their eyes were glued to the page, were getting confused by the characters. There's 2 specific women in this book that I felt weren't distinguished enough. They had very similar jobs within the company and they just didn't have distinct voices, so their characters just completely blended together, which made things confusing. And yeah, just not enjoyable. I rated it 2 stars. The next book I read was Killjoy by Holly Jackson. This is the prequel novella to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. You could honestly read this at any point in the trilogy. Like you could read it before you even started the trilogy. You could read it after the first one, after the second one, or you could save it for last. I personally liked saving this one for last just because this one is very lighthearted and fun and you just have all your favorite characters back together having a fun time, and I think it was kind of like the perfect way to end the series after reading As Good as Dead, because As Good as Dead definitely is a lot darker and heavier book. This just felt like you were ending it on a breath of fresh air. My only complaint about this book is there's no Ravi in it, but of course there's not going to be a Ravi in it because it's a prequel novella, but still, I love Pip and Ravi, so I wish we kind of got something like this, but with him in it. So in this book, you are following the characters, and this is basically about how Pip chooses her topic for her senior capstone project, which leads us into the events of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And Connor and Jamie, they are throwing a murder mystery party. So there's no real murder in here. It's just a fun, lighthearted time. Kids getting together and having a murder mystery party and ordering pizza, and it is fun and I enjoyed it. I rated it 4 stars. Then for Summerween, I read the first 20 pages of The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I didn't finish this in my Summerween vlog and I did not finish it at all. You know, I was intrigued by the first 20 pages and I had every intention on continuing it, but then I didn't. But it is still on my TBR because I do want to continue this at some point. The next book I read is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This book I heavily featured in my What I Read in a Week vlog, so again, my detailed thoughts are out there if you are interested. In this book, you are following our 2 main characters, Brianna and Jacob. It is told dual POV, which I absolutely love, a good dual POV romance. And basically, you're following these 2 characters. They work at a hospital. It's kind of like a dislike to like situation, workplace romance, and there's fake dating in it. I love all those tropes. It is so much fun. And Jacob, he deals with anxiety, which is something I deal with, so I absolutely loved his character in here. I thought the anxiety representation in this book was absolutely amazing. It was something that I found so relatable, and I love Brianna as a partner to Jacob because the way she like helps him cope with his anxiety and the way she tries to make life easier for him, I just absolutely loved that. The fake dating I thought was so much fun in here, and it was just overall such a good time, and I loved seeing the couple Alexis and Daniel from Part of Your World. It was so fun because they made a cameo in this book and I absolutely loved this book. I absolutely loved this book. They were both 5-star reads, so it was just really fun to see the couples interacting. And yeah, I really hope Abby Jimenez writes more books in this world because I absolutely need to see more books featuring all these couples coming together. Now we're going to go over the 4 books that I do not own, so their pictures will be here. The first book is Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. This is what I kicked off my month reading. At the end of June, I read Haunting Adeline, so of course I started July by reading Hunting Adeline. This book was very dark, and I am not saying that like, oh my god, this is like such a fun dark romance. Like, no, there is extremely triggering topics in here that have nothing to do with romance, so I really like read the trigger warnings, take them seriously. Like, I cannot have read this book via audiobook. Like, there is absolutely no way. This book for me had to be physically read because I could not hear the things that were happening in my ears. Like, there's absolutely no way. Like, I didn't even attempt to listen to the audiobook. I read it on my Kindle, but I just already know audio is just not the way for me specifically to go for this book. The things that are happening in the beginning of this book are so insane. So if you know the ending of Haunting Adeline, there's a specific event that happens, and I'm not going to give away any spoilers, obviously, but the the resolution to that event does not happen right away in Hunting Adeline. You have to read like 200-300 pages to get to the resolution of that event that happens at the end of Hunting Adeline. And those 200-300 pages where you're trying to get to that resolution are just extremely traumatic and triggering. And it's just, I think I've learned from Haunting and Hunting Adeline that I'm just not into dark romance. I do not like dubcon. I just absolutely do not. I mean, there's not even dubcon in these books. It is literally non-con in these books between the female main lead and the male main lead. So I just absolutely do not like that. It's just not my thing. I don't judge people for liking dark romance. But I just think it's just, I don't enjoy reading toxic stuff. I don't enjoy reading about a stalker. I don't enjoy toxic males. Like, I'm reading for my enjoyment. Like, give me more Jacobs in the world and give me way less Zade Meadows in the world. You know, I'm someone who usually reads, like, popular books, and I'm, like, a pretty easygoing reader. You know, so I tend to agree with the hype. I'm like, oh my god, this book was so good. You know, I feel like I love a lot of popular books. These books are just were all over my For You page. Everyone in the comments like, I love Zade Meadows. Zade Meadows is daddy. Like, I love him so much. And after reading these books, like, I'm just mind blown. Like, I just don't understand. But I think that's because I don't understand the dark romance genre. And again, that's a total preference thing. Read what you want to read, enjoy what you enjoy. But like, not for me. I just left this book unrated. The next book I read is The Spare Room by Andrea Bartz. This one I listened to the audiobook. I got it from my library through the Libby app. And this book overall, I think I rated it 3 stars. So I would say overall, I kind of enjoyed this book. It's definitely a very smutty mystery thriller. It's definitely like a mystery thriller for the romance girlies, romantic suspense. I don't know, like, would it be? I recently learned the term romantic suspense. So I'm like thinking like, ooh, is this like a mystery thriller or is it like a romantic suspense type of thriller? So basically you're following this girl. She's just got a relationship with her boyfriend and she reconnects from this girl from her high school who is like successful and married to this hot, successful man as well. They're just like a power couple. And she's like, hey, come move into our guest room. So she moves into the guest room and there's so much sexual tension between all 3 of them. And they enter a throuple situation. And then she learns that they have done this before with another girl that was living in their spare room and now that girl is missing. So overall, I enjoyed the book up until we got to like the plot twist, and then everything that kind of came after the plot twist, I didn't really enjoy that part of the book. So looking back on it, it really is a 3 star. This is not a book I would really go out of my way to recommend. Like, it was fun, I guess, but it's just, you could do without it. You know what I mean? The next book I read, I also featured in What I Read in the Week vlog, and that is Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Winsler. It is an age gap, taboo, sapphic romance. So you're following our 2 main characters. It is dual POV. So you have Cassie, you have Aaron. Cassie is a senior in college, and Aaron's daughter goes to the college that Cassie goes to. They meet in a bar one night, they hook up, and then the next day, Cassie's friend's like, hey girl, you want to come to lunch with me? My mom's in town. She's like, okay, sure, let's go. So they go, and then Cassie realizes that the lady she hooked up with last night is her friend's mom, and it just starts a chaotic, crazy, fun time. I absolutely loved this book. It was so much fun. It is a very smutty, spicy romance. Overall, I really enjoyed it, and I rated it 4 stars. I thought it was a fun time. It's one of those things, do I condone the characters' actions? No. I think they could have handled things a lot better, but you know what? I was entertained. I had a good time, so I'm not going to complain about it, and it was a 4-star read. And the last book we're going to talk about that I read this month is One Piece Volume 1 by, I don't know the author's name, I'm so sorry, but it's right here. Okay, so One Piece, I watched the live action Netflix trailer and then I was like, oh my god, I need to start my One Piece journey. This manga series has like 106 published volumes right now, and I think it's still going on. I'm like, oh, that's a lot. I cannot buy them all. So I got this from my library. I read it on my Kindle. I really enjoyed this. This is a like pirate manga series. You're following our main character Luffy, and his goal is to be a king of the pirates. So it's about him kind of growing up. And well, you meet him when he's a kid, and then you like flash forward to when he's like an adult, and he's like, okay, it's finally time for me to start my pirate crew. You watch his adventures. It was so much fun, and I'm very excited to continue on in this series. But mangas for me are not something I sit down and binge. They're just kind of like things I read in between things. They're like little palate cleansers. If I'm bored, I have 2 hours, I don't really know what I want to start, I'll read a manga series. So like, I'm not trying to binge this series by any means. This I'll just kind of slowly read whenever I feel like it. I rated this 5 stars though. I really enjoyed it. If you're looking for a fun pirate adventure manga series, here you go. Start this with me and be on the ride with me while I read One Piece. So those are all the books that I read in the month of July. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
All these